And so real quickly, this was, here where some stuff went down, what have you. I used to live back here in that building or something with my ex-girlfriend, and so there was some incidents that had occurred here, and I'm just here to kind of tell my life story, to really briefly touch on that, what had happened, and so that incident that I'm going to tell you about later, because I don't want to make too much of a scene here, just kind of touch on it right before, I realized who I am and why, that Marshall is marital scrambled and Christ is the bridegroom, and Kiro Obi means black belt in Japanese, and Obi is an Igbo word that means King Heart Essence Center Temple Core. In fact, the word Obi is Igbo spelled backwards. So when we look at the wordplay and the church is refusing to address my arguments, and some of them subtly conceding, you can safely come to the conclusion I'm the Christos, the anointed one, and that the miracles are figurative. And so I felt like, I should say this here to kind of come to, kind of spread the message here briefly, even though I don't think anyone's listening, just to kind of address that negativity that occurred here. That I don't hold that against anybody here that lived in this place at the time, and I just want to kind of get that off my chest and just be the best man I can be as the one that God set apart as Christ in the end. Due to tech, breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains, there will not be a moral path in the future, and most people should have come to that conclusion by now, and they should understand universal pinpointing moral precision and focused moral intensity. So that's all I wanted to say. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it pushing and go back to the rest of the story. Go over there to Cherry Park and talk about those scriptures, and then I'll head home. Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. So I was going through the videos and trying to upload them and sort them out, what have you, and I came across that clip, and I realized I forgot to tell you the story about it. So it's 10/26 today, 2024, and that was like a video clip I made, I think on the 21st, if I'm not mistaken, or whatever the date was. But to tell the story, it was a day when, for whatever reason, I had clashed with some people in that area, and I was living there with my ex-girlfriend, what have you, and the worst kind of drama that ever played out was nothing to do with those guys. It was when two of my friends started the worst drama in that apartment complex, that is. Two of my friends started fighting. One of them had a Cadillac. The other one, got on top of the windshield and started hitting it, and so on and so forth. The guy drove away, and they're both faded or whatever, and he fell off the hood and landed on like his head or something. And he was unconscious for a while, so on and so forth. The police come. The other person, he's panicking so much because he thought he killed him. He didn't know what happened, that he had some kind of high blood pressure incident or something. These are younger guys, right? But it was a very serious and dramatic incident. So I was out there with those two guys, my other friend. Let's go ahead and name him. I don't think it's harmful. His name's Eddie. He was a mixed guy, cool guy, very laid back guy. My neighbor at the time was a female. She was from Oakland, from the town, as they say. And she was out there, and I told her, I said, get my girlfriend inside, because she just refused to go back inside. I said, look, just go back inside. And I'm trying to break them up and all this while they're running around, squabbling, exchanging blows. And I'm like, look, just get back in the house, right? I don't need to worry about you being out here too. Like, for some reason I was worried about that. I'm sure I had my reasons. I'm sure I was right. And so the neighbor was there. I was like, could you please take this female here, my ex-girlfriend, and get her back into the apartment, rather, not the house. And incidentally, when we came to squash the beef after the incident I'm going to tell you about took place, I was with those two gentlemen, not the third, the two guys who were fighting with each other. We went there and we seen one of these guys, this younger guy, and we rolled up. I'm in the back of the Cadillac, if I remember correctly, and, I had them do the talking for me, and I felt like that was real gangster, what have you. And so, and again, I'm not promoting gang violence or anything like this, or being a gangster or anything like that. So anyway, they basically said, we're here to squash the beef. And it's one of these guys who was like the most peaceful among them, but we were just going to go up to the first one we see and kind of try to squash it. Okay, and later on, one of them would like hold that against us. They said, we went up to so and so, okay, but that was the first person that was around. You see what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm trying not to sound like a thug or gangster. They changed my voice with technology to make it so I sound like that. Okay, I don't naturally sound like that. That's something that they're doing. And I didn't try to naturally sound like that back in the day, but there's a mix between the technology and me kind of remembering this stuff that changes my voice. Okay, and I'm sure by now my viewers believe me. It's stupid as hell to not believe me. It's just dumb as hell to not believe me. Obviously, I'm telling the truth. So anyway, on the day of that incident that took place, in that area where the picture on the screen shows, there was two of these guys, okay? One had on a big jacket. He was shorter. One was taller, okay? Two black people, black males, and there was kids playing around. And something had led up to this incident. I think that I was mad over, one of these guys' relatives, acquaintances, what have you. I don't want to get too much into detail. Had grabbed my ex-girlfriend's butt at the club, and she said she turned around and smacked him, and then he smacked her back, and then his friend grabbed him and said, "What are you doing?" Okay, that set me off into a series of events where I approached one of these guys, two different guys actually, with a knife out, you know what I'm saying? And I'm saying, I'm saying, "What's up?" You know what I'm saying? Type of thing. And again, I'm not a violent person, but I'm not going to take that kind of disrespect. Back then, I was the type of guy to pull the trigger, hit someone with a machete, crowbar, what have you, not because of being psychotic or whatever, as a matter of fighting for honor. I identified as a gang member back then, as a Crip from the South Side. That apartment complex is in the southern part of San Jose. And, I knew some of these guys. They dated, we had a roommate there was a Puerto Rican. Okay, so it was me, my ex-girlfriend, the Puerto Rican roommate. I believe she wasn't there at the time. She hadn't moved in yet. I'm not mistaken about the timeline. Or she had moved out by then. One of the two. And she dated guys who were gangsters, and so it really fed into my identity as a gangster and so on and so forth. And I had my own crew and so on and so forth. But again, you got to make the distinction. I wasn't a typical gangster, wasn't ghetto, what have you. I can't stress that part enough. So when people start running their mouths like, what is a brain surgeon's son doing trying to be a gangster? I was not trying to be a gangster. I was a gangster and I was a straight killer. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't trying to be ghetto. I was a martial artist fighting for honor, the voice of reason, the greater Crip nation, if you will, because there's not one Crip gang. There's a bunch of Crip gangs, right? And some have bloody rivalries. Some are friends one day, enemies the next. It's a story for another day. So, and again, I'm not promoting the gangster lifestyle, but this is the truth about when Jesus came back. And when you're talking about God and you're talking about all these stories in the Bible that some are very disturbing, some are sexual in nature, what have you, I'm sure that someone with sense thinks that this shouldn't be omitted. This is part of the story. So as I had a problem with those dudes, I pulled a different knife on these guys, right? And that knife, for whatever reason, the government sabotaged it or something. It wasn't sticking in place. But I didn't go for the kitchen knife when I went that day. I just grabbed the first knife I saw, and it so happened that had that issue. So I'm like holding it, and it's like they picked up on that, so they didn't kind of take it seriously or something, but they kind of did. They were trying to save face. There's two of them. There's one of me. Okay. And so that kind of fueled my hatred. Okay. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to show these guys. So, I think there was after that incident that I seen one of those two guys when I was with my ex-girlfriend. We're taking the light rail, and he bows his head down, and he looks very ashamed and very saddened. Okay, and I think I went up to them and I went up to him kind of trying to make the peace or whatever, trying to talk to him, right, and trying to kind of show him that no hard feelings and what have you, which would also help me kind of smooth over that incident, so that the community wouldn't feel terrorized by me or something at the time. Now keep in mind I had a good reason for acting up, and I didn't know who had done it, and I don't even think I knew that those guys were related to the guy who had grabbed her butt, right? And I was just asking around. I asked the security guard. I went up to him, and he was trying to act tough too, and that didn't help because I'm the top martial artist ever possible. So when I'm not getting my respect, it kind of fed into it. So then that incident that I'm trying to lead up to here, outside of that apartment, there was two of them, right? One of them was I think one of them was the guy from the bus stop, actually. No, I think that's what it was. Okay, not the bus stop, the light rail stop. Okay, and I think that happened after that. That must have happened after that. Yeah, that's what happened. So it was that guy, and it was a smaller guy with like a puffy jacket of some kind. And so, for whatever reason, something set me off. Maybe they stared at me earlier, and I went up, got retrieved the butcher knife. I'm pretty sure I retrieved it from the apartment. I might have brought it with me the first time. I don't know, because, at some point I was getting dropped off, and at some point I started driving when I was living with my ex-girlfriend. I don't remember what the timeline is there. But for whatever reason, I was on foot, and, I'm guessing I just got dropped off earlier, and I went and retrieved the butcher knife from the apartment and came back down. Okay, so I have it in my waistline. Remember, I'm a straight killer. I'm already a martial art champion by that time, what have you. I got the martial arts trophy at 16. I was probably about 20 years old. I'd been in the car accident, and that's part of why I was quick to think toward knives and machetes and weapons of that nature. And of course, like I always say, if it's worth fighting for, it's worth killing for, right? So fighting is a pretty serious thing as it is, especially when you're somebody as serious and tough and as trained as I am, and so on and so forth. And trained myself, mind you, at some point. After I was about 16 years old, I started training myself, and that's when the training really became intense and so on and so forth. So anyway, I approached these two guys, and I lift up my sweater, shirt, whatever I had on, and I revealed the butcher knife. And when they didn't kind of budge, I'm like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, they must have lost their mind. They don't honestly believe that they can beat me. So they probably didn't know about the martial arts, what have you. They're trying to save face. They were in an area where they were known to hang out known to hang out at. Okay. And so they didn't want to budge. And there was some kids playing outside or something. And I'm thinking, man, if this escalates, then I'm going to mow these guys down in like no time flat. They're going to be dead. You see what I'm saying? These guys weren't serious thugs or gang members. They were just guys trying to kind of save face, right? I'm sure they've been in some kind of squabbles, whatever, but not anywhere near as serious as what they're facing. And so basically I said, this is a testament to my character, where I was willing to accept the kind of, losing face, the kind of awkwardness, and you might say embarrassment of de-escalating after I had turned all the way up on them, right? Expecting them to kind of give me my credit. But if you think about it, they kind of had nowhere to go. That's where they hung out. That was their little spot. And I kind of, it was like their backs against the wall on the one hand. So I kind of, but at the same time, the smart thing for them to do would have been to flee. So I said, I said something to the effect of, there's kids out here suggesting that, hey, don't make me kill you in front of these kids, right? And then they said, let's go to the back. Now, I also didn't want to kill them in the back. I could not for the life of me understand why they were willing to die instead of, bow out like that guy later did at the bus stop. So I'm guessing the government probably hacked his brain, or they told him what to do or at the light rail stop, that is, where, when he walked up there, he's like a skinny guy, very skinny, right? And I'm, I'm not that skinny and I'm not that big at the time, but certainly I was bigger than him and a lot tougher than him. And he knew that beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. It would have went quickly, with the butcher knife back then. Okay. It would have been very quick, right? They both would have been stabbed up, the stomach, the neck, you name it. And, the arms trying to in defensive positions, right? They didn't have a chance. Okay. Not anywhere near a chance, but I had chosen on my own to de-escalate. Now there's a bunch of knucklehead, knuckle-dragging fools who would say, hey, that's some punk shit or whatever. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. That's why people like me define the martial art code. Not people like that. Because they don't have the wisdom, the insight, the sense, the discernment, the heart. They don't have the discipline to understand. That situation was nowhere near even stabbing someone a little bit for, much less killing somebody, much less killing two people in front of kids or in around the area of kids. They would eventually started yelling or something. It would have been an ugly, bloody, like horror movie scene mixed with martial arts, right? It was not the move. And I'm proud that I didn't do anything about it. And I'm proud to some degree that I had the heart to kind of stand up for my girlfriend, whether you agree with that action or not. So looking back at it and reflecting on it, I can respect my decision. I don't think it was a perfect decision, but with the information given and having, the government running psyops on me and so on and so forth and trying to treat me like a punk when I'm the top martial artist ever, when I look at everything and I factor, wisdom and righteousness and being a warrior and everything together, I'm satisfied that what I did was wise enough. It wasn't pinpointed wise, but it was wise enough. Because, that guy eventually did bow to me out of fear and out of respect. And, to this day, I don't know whether he knew that I was Christ or not, or what they told him. But when I look back at it, it could go either way. I'm guessing he didn't, but it could go either way, because it was with such reverence that he bowed. I remember that's still with me the rest of my life, right? And to some degree, I really respected him for it. I said, that's that African respect, right? I really respected, that he was able to recognize the warrior in me and the great martial prowess in me at that moment. Okay, at that those few moments where he bowed down. It's like he was trying to act like I wasn't there, like he was like scared, and he was bowing, and he was kind of ashamed of himself, and he was like, hope this just goes away. And I kind of felt bad, because my intention was not to terrorize anybody. My intention was to make it clear that I'm not a punk, and that the leopard, as they say, has a lethal grace for authority, to exert not some kind of slave master authority, but exert martial authority, my rightful place. The Christos, the Lord, is a warrior like father, like son. Something that the government and the gang stalkers and the people listening right now will never know anything about. They don't know what it's like to walk with God, to walk as the top martial artist, to walk as a great warrior in the divine order. They don't know anything about that, much less being the top martial artist ever possible. So some of them have some kind of wise, smart aleck remarks, but again, just like the knuckle draggers I described earlier, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, I move with heart, with purpose, with grace. Okay, and I tell the truth about these stories, and that's very important there. So knowing that there's people who would twist what I say and they want to poke fun at me, let me just end this by saying this: who the fuck are they to insult Christ? And it's a great disgrace for them and their families to take that route. I'm sure we can all agree. Thank you.